do three things in this life. I'm a pastor, I'm a grief therapist, and I'm an authenticity coach. What does that all mean? It means that I help people navigate the changes and challenges of life in a manner that is, one, true to who they are, two, honors God, because ultimately there's a plan. And that plan gets thwarted by the challenges that does not get thwarted by changes and challenges of life. And three, in a manner that protects their dignity. Because what happens is sometimes when we go through life, we feel like our dignity is stripped from us at different levels and in different ways. So it's important for us to remember that at all times, human beings have dignity and we protect that. So that's what I do. I create safe spaces for healing conversations.
And with such an impressive introduction, hi, my name, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. Eric James, the local menace, the person decided to cause chaos back at it again. And apparently this is a safe space, so I am not sure how safe it would become. But a pleasure to have you here. Hope you enjoy this. Thank you for having us. Yeah. Wow. Okay. First, I feel like I should divide the level of connection I have with family and friends. So I'll address them differently. Because for friends, friends are people we've chosen. And I feel like at certain points, while we are choosing these friends, we saw some faults, we saw the red flags. And us with our rose-colored glasses, not fully seeing the deepness within it, we stayed with it. We stayed with them. We understand them. So I feel when it comes to friends, I can understand. I can feel like just going back to why you chose them. Because I'm assuming people are healthy and you choose good friends. You choose friends for a reason, as in you go back and remember why you chose them as a friend and try to help them through their journey, because everybody has their journey, and you do not want to be a stopping block or a stopping block in front of them. But when it comes to family, I am on the obligation of we should not condone toxic family. I feel like if a family member is toxic to you, I believe you do not owe them any love. I believe you can wholeheartedly cut them off your life purely based off that toxicity that they may bring into your life, because I believe family should be held at a higher standard. And if by blood there is toxic behavior that you exhibit towards me or other people that I cherish and hold dear, the conversation of how do you love them should not even be there. It should be why. Why should you love them? So I think those are my two stands. Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting what you say about friends, because I think that when you're looking at friends, other than looking at what is toxic in them, the first place to look at friends is what made me attracted to you as a friend to begin with. Why did I choose you? The world has 8 billion people.
Yeah.
So how did we end up together? How did we end up calling each other friends? And I'm not just talking about social media friends where followers and all, but I'm talking about people that I actually choose to knowingly and consciously and intentionally let into my space. How did we get to that place? And if you're coming into that place so that you can spread toxicity all over, then maybe I should shut that door. Now with family, it's a lot more difficult to shut that door, because family, unfortunately, also comes with the reality of interdependence. You know, my mom could be toxic, but imagine she pays my bills, she pays rent, she feeds me. So it becomes very difficult for me to cut her off, and then what will I do when I cut her off?
It's more of, I feel like I might relate to almost every teenager or young adult who has grown up in I don't relate. Okay, kind of. Who have grown up in difficult households. Once you reach the age of independence, that becomes so easy because you feel like you never connected with them anyway. You are only living under the same roof, but you're more of roommates rather than family. So when it comes to that kind of situation of saying that you are dependent upon them, I feel like once you reach the point of 18, you don't even know where the money will come from. You don't even care where you'll sleep. You don't even care where anything happens. You'll just leave because you're legally allowed. You have the legal independence to leave. So you find yourself, you leave the home as quickly as possible, just to escape that dependency that you speak of, because you do not see a future for yourself with the family member or the family situation that you're within. But when it comes to friends, I feel like since friends are people you've chosen, they become your chosen family. Really, they become people you have a connection with them. Because when it reaches a point where with family, if you have no connection, there's no reason for love. With friends, you've chosen them, you have a connection with them, you can excuse toxicity, you can work with them, you can love them in any way possible. Just loving the person but not loving the behaviors, and showing them that their behaviors are hurting you. And if they are loving towards you, they would see that hurt and respond in kind. But with family, I don't see a way forward, especially if it's toxic family, because I don't know. It's just
One of the things about family is that they can easily remain a constant. They're there from birth and they're there till death. Yes. Now, the quality of the relationship is two-way. Because what kind of relationship was there before I got to the age of 18? And what kind of relationship is there now that I'm at an age where I can actually choose whether you're part of my life or not? And sometimes those dynamics play out when someone turns 18 and they begin to realize, you know what? Imagine I'm with you out of choice. Imagine I relate with you out of choice when it comes to family. But the other thing about family, and this is what keeps me very hopeful about family, is that I consistently believe in hope. And therefore...
Hope is what kills, though. And
therefore, there is a possibility that along the way, maybe they will realize, how come we're not talking anymore? How come we're not in touch anymore? And they may begin to interrogate their own relationship with me. And maybe, even if it's 10 years, 15 years later, there is that hope of, hi, this is mom. I was thinking we could have a conversation. Maybe she has seen the light on her ways. Maybe she's had her own moment of reflection. Because one of the things, and maybe I'm saying this because I'm a mom.
Yes, there are a lot of maybes there are a lot of hopes
and
there.
And I'll tell you why I'm saying this, because I'm a mom. I'm also a human being.
True.
Which means then that as my children are growing up, one of the statements that I use about bringing up my children is, I say that they're the children that are bringing me up. Why do I say that? Is because as they are growing up, so am I. So I don't, just because I'm mom, I'm not the pot of knowledge. I don't come, in fact, being a parent is one of those things where nothing you have done before in life shows up.
So we're just supposed to assume parents are freestyling us.
No, we're not. We're not freestyling.
You don't have previous experience, so
we don't have previous experience. Yeah. We also, the only experience that we have is how we were parented. That's all we have, and that one is not even in our consciousness. It actually sits in our subconscious and even in our unconscious. So sometimes, not knowing what I am saying, and I'll open my mouth and my mother will come out. I'll make her say like, I've had that statement before. It was my mom. Why? I don't remember thinking about it, but it's seated somewhere in my memory, and it's seated somewhere in the space that says, when your child does something like this is what you say. And so I say it, and I'm like, wow, I said what my mom said. But then, if I am a conscious, intentional and engaged parent, then I will think to myself, when my mom said that to me, how did I feel? If it made me feel devalued, if it made me feel invalidated, then I will pause and think, is my child feeling invalidated by my statement? Is my child feeling devalued? Is my child feeling alienated from me? And if I get the sense they are, and even in fact, I don't have to wait to get the sense they are, just simply because I remember what that made me feel like, then it befalls me, the parent, to go back to the child and bring them closer and apologize and let them know that mommy loves you, but you know what? Mommy is also human, and mommy made a mistake, and mommy is sorry.
You know, when you're giving this these examples, it just seems to say that the beginning of the process begins with the parent, and I don't know if you know African parents. African parents have a way of refusing that kind of intentionality about their thoughts. They don't like to second guess their parenting style, the way they have raised up their children, and it has led to these cycles of this generation traumas, as people call it, to continue and to continue and to continue. But when it comes to the idea of giving them a second chance, you don't see the avenue or even the hope. As a child, you won't see the hope because you know your parents are not able to reach that point of, okay, let's sit at the table and have this conversation, because that will be an admission that they did something wrong. And for them to admit that they're wrong to their child, I think within our culture is almost an impossibility, because you are above your child. You are the guide of your child through and through. And for you to break that kind of visage among them, it's among us, I mean, is just a crazy concept. And so that leads there being a disconnect, because you do not want to put hope in a situation that would not happen. So going back to the question, that reaches a point of, if they do not even see the toxicity in themselves, they do not acknowledge it, then you can't even begin the conversation, because by not being able to acknowledge it, it feels, by you telling your parents that, it feels like you're attacking them. And since they feel it's an attack, they will attack you back. And it just creates that cycle of conflict. And I don't know, if that toxicity cannot be acknowledged, I'll just cut off. You know, I feel like it's surprisingly easy to cut off. I don't know if it feels like your generation underestimates ours, because we can cut off people regardless of history, regardless of the reason you've raised us up with, because there are many cases of a child reaches 18 and pays back the parent what they spent on growing up, and then cutting ties completely because they only saw them as a financial dependent. But our generation is very okay, and it's very it's very okay with not accommodating such toxicity in their life, and the lengths that we can go to cut people off, to cut this kind of communication between us and our parents, or us, mostly us with our parents, is so easy coming to us, because I feel we grew up knowing our worth. Thank the Lord, we grew up knowing our worth. So I don't see how our family you can approach love. I honestly do not see it. I don't know, I can't be convinced otherwise, but I think I don't see it. If you can cut off, I think you can cut off.
You know, there's something you said, that our parents have authority and therefore can do what they want. Here's the thing about authority and power. Responsibility rests on the person that has authority and power.
Quoting Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah.
So responsibility rests on the person with authority and power. And therefore, it is not up to my children to prove themselves worthy for me to love them. That's putting a great responsibility on the person who doesn't even have capacity, forget even power. So as a parent, the power rests on me, the responsibility rests on me to love my child, it flows down. Okay?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's not always visible by the parents. That's not always very clear for the parents to see. Why? Because the parents also come from a place of having been parented by the previous generation, and we can keep going back. We can keep going back as far back as Adam. However, here's the thing about creating healthy spaces. Creating healthy spaces needs to come to a place where we are no longer looking for who do we blame. Who do we say is responsible for the unhealthy family cultures we have? Who do we say is responsible for the bad next generation? By the way, at one point we were the bad next generation.
I felt I had to believe that.
Yeah. So it's not about finding who do we blame, but it's about finding, okay, so we're not looking for who to blame. We are taking responsibility for ensuring that this toxicity does not carry on, that we are not spreading toxicity and calling it culture. We must break that. And so it's upon me to decide, you know what, it ends with me. Which means if my mother, and I know we've seen the jokes of African mom this, African mom that. And here is a reality. There are people where, while for some people, African moms is a joke, there are some people where African moms is a real pain point because it really was who their mom was and it really left them scarred. And even though we will joke about it, it left us with tendencies of people pleasing. It left us with tendencies to overthink. And so we live our lives in that space. It left us with tendencies where someone begins to shout and it left us, we shut down. It also left us with an inability to get away from the pursuit of perfection. Now, perfection is one of the most disempowering things that can happen in the lives of people. And so I wish there was a way in which we could make it mandatory that before you have a child, please go for healing. Unfortunately, it's not a possibility. But we freestyle on the job. But if you're freestyling on the job and it's causing pain to the people that you're working with, then there's a problem. Check yourself. But even you as a child, here is the thing. Maybe if you begin to look at your parents, not as the carrier of wisdom and knowledge, but as sometimes even just look at them through look at them and see where are they coming from. Because you see, like I said, I may be parenting and I may be parenting today from a place of being toxic. But maybe if you took a closer look and looked at my mother and my father, your grandparents, you would see the toxicity and you'd see how that flows through me. So maybe you need to look at me through the eyes of my pain as opposed to the eyes of perfection that you expect. Would that help?
Probably.
And we're talking about once you get to the age of choice. We're talking about once you get to the age of 18.
I think, yes, it might work, but I don't know, there's still this pain that you'd carry with. There's still this pain that you'll associate your parent with. And you would still, yes, they went through this generational trauma, they went through this pain, but you also have pain of your own that was caused by them. And sometimes it's hard to pass that wall of yes, I understand. I get where you're coming from. I understand your pain. You didn't also have it easy, but you still caused this pain towards me. And overcoming that barrier, that mountain becomes an impossibility. So you can see it, but I feel unless the conversation is had, it becomes difficult to change a person's mindset on how they would relate to their parent. Yeah.
That's true. You know, truth is, those that are parenting today have a bit more resources than our parents did. Yeah, there's books, there's conversations happening online, there's magazines, there's programs that they can take, there's all these resources that are available to them. Our parents probably had less resources, and their parents did not even think resources were needed on parenting. However, the makeup of children has not changed over the years. They're still born at age 0. They're still born at 9 months. And it doesn't matter what generation we're in. It's still that hasn't changed. What happens with children is that children do not understand intentions. Children only understand the emotions that arise out of the environment that they are in. So I may have been leaving my children, I may have been locking up my children all day to do their homework because I want them to be successful. They will not understand that. They will only understand the pain and punishment or being locked up and being pushed to because we were not good enough. So children don't understand intention. Now, that also means if children get hurt, just because we have said sorry, it's not going to go away. So what does that mean? When pain does not get healed, it does not show up as pain in the life of the child. It shows up as behavior. When a child goes through something traumatic, when a child goes through something painful, it doesn't show up as trauma in their lives, it shows up as behavior. Because what happened? They had to find ways to cope with the pain that they were going through. And therefore they found a behavior that would help them cope. And so who they are is as a result of what they have gone through. So when we see people behaving in a way that we think that's not normal, well, normal is an overrated word. When we look
doesn't exist.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. My normal and your normal, it's not different. When you look at somebody doing something and you think, that's different. I wonder why they're behaving that way. I wonder what they went through. That way, we are opening up space for conversation and understanding as opposed to saying, I wonder what's wrong with them. Because when I ask what's wrong with them, then I have shut out the possibility of, imagine there could be nothing wrong with them. It's just who they are. But when I say, I wonder what they went through, then it opens up space for compassion, it opens up space for conversation, and it opens up space for understanding. So even as we see our parents with behavior that we think, I wish it was the other way, I wonder what's wrong with them. How about we look at them and think, I wonder what they went through.